Yes, they are coming. Okay, thank you. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Riccardo Battisti. I work for consultancy company Ambiente Italia, and today I have the task of moderating this event. You saw probably from the program that it's quite a dense event, so we will have several presentations basically about the technologies that we can use to heat best, of course, the south of Europe. Then we will have a short roundtable, discussion roundtable, and then we have a final presentation about support in financing. So let me thank, of course, the Renewable Heating and Cooling Platform for inviting me to be the moderator. Let me thank, of course, also the speakers who will join today, and also you for coming as an audience. Thank you, Olgu, for managing also all the technical stuff, let's say. So if you can go to the next slide. Okay, so the round table and the event will span from now to 12. Let's hope to be on time for the different presentation. And if you can go to the next slide. Okay, very short points about the organization. Let's say this session will be a recording, and then the recording and the presentation will be made available to you, to the participants. I really ask speakers to keep the time, so basically 8 minutes, considering also the changes and the time we normally waste in changes. And these are basically the countries we would like to address in this discussion, in this event we have. If you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is our speaker, but I will, if you go directly to the next slide, I will very briefly, guide you through the agenda. So I am already doing these welcome remarks. It will be very short, just to give then enough room for the presenters to go deeper into the topics. We will have a presentation basically on solar thermal, seasonal storage, and power to heat. Then we have another one about biomass. And then in the next slide, you see, of course, we will have also focuses on geothermal heat pumps, the topic which is kind of a cross-cutting topic, of course, of district heating and cooling. And then last but not least, of course, the very important topic of the social acceptance and awareness of all these technological solutions. Then, if you go to the next slide, we will have, as I was saying before, a panel discussion, and then a final presentation by Euroheat and Power and Veep about funding and support. And then hopefully we will be good enough to close on time at 12. Okay, if you go to the next slide. These are, of course, the speakers who will present, and then that we will have also in our panel discussion. Next, please. Okay, some very short facts and figures, because I would like really to give the floor then to our speakers. You know that let's say the framework regarding heating and cooling is quite good at the moment, but challenging at the same time. So after many years of heating and cooling being a bit neglected, let's say, by the European policies, now there's a clearer focus on that, let's say. The revised Renewable Energy Directive includes also a binding target for renewables in general at 42.5% by 2030. And of course, the role played by heating and cooling is really central, because it represents around half of the final energy consumption. And we must always remember also that the heating and cooling market is more complex, it's more fragmented, and so also the decarbonization is slower, and also the way to decarbonize these sectors are more, let's say, complicated than for electricity. And that's why we have really to discuss deeply how to lead this process. Next, please. Okay, just to show you some figures here, you see this is from Eurostat, and you see that, of course, not all of the countries are in line, let's say, with the targets that we have to reach. This is the situation for 2022, and you see that especially for countries like, for example, Italy and Spain, if I keep on focusing on the, let's say, on the Southern Europe, we are still quite a long way to reach the target foreseen. And that means that, of course, we really need to take a lot of policy and technological and support and financing actions to reach the target. If you go to the next slide, I think it's interesting also to see before I was mentioning also district heating and cooling as a kind of a cross-cutting technological solution to implement massive amounts of renewables. And here you see also, again, for several countries, I just put a red shape, let's say, around the southern European countries, and you'll see what is the share of district heating and cooling, and what is also the share of renewable heat. And you see that, especially in some countries, there is still a very large potential to increase district heating and cooling, and this could, again, in turn, really bring to an increase also in the share of renewable heat that can be used to cover the energy consumption in these countries. Okay, next. Okay, that was the last one from my side. As I was saying, I prefer to do a very short introduction. Having said that, thanks again for coming, and I would like already to start with the first presentation. So I would give the floor to Bojan Bogdanovic for talking about solar thermal seasonal heat energy storage and power to heat solutions.
Thank you. So thank you, organizers, for inviting me to speak about this very exciting topic. And actually, Southern Europe will need this coupling of heating and cooling district heating sector with electricity sector very much because of the high penetration of solar PVs and wind. And district heating sector is actually a solution for some of the issues with the negative electricity prices, and we all heard about this. So just to start, because in this moment I don't see the presentation. Olgu, can you give me
Bojan, because you wanted to share your own presentation.
Yeah. Just can you please just give me the authority? So while you're doing this, okay. Just wanted to say. So yes, negative electricity prices are one of the very important topic in Europe. Wind, renewable. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I will now start sharing. And just tell me, do you see? Do you see?
Yes, we see in the presentation mode.
Yeah, normal mode. Okay, thank you very much. So negative electricity prices are one of the reasons why district heating sector is now very important, because the accumulation of heat energy is several hundred times or even 1,000 times cheaper than accumulation of electricity energy. And you will see some very innovative ideas from EBRD. Just wanted to mention that EBRD is not working in, for instance, Italy, Portugal, Spain, but we are very active in Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, North Africa, Central Asia, so from Slovakia to Mongolia. And we are also starting now sub-Saharan Africa. So I don't want to steal the show from other colleagues. I just wanted to make an introduction of how different solution needs to be. And this is why district heating sector is probably more complex than others, because every city, every district heating system deserves different solution. As you can see here, in this example, of the cities we are already working on. For some cities, solar thermal is a solution. For some other heat pumps, but heat pumps also can use geothermal, direct geothermal with or without heat pump. Also, urban and industrial waste heat. As you can see here, in some cities we use wastewater treatment plants, and some cities we use data centers. So in some cities we use excessive heat from steel factories. But as you can see, also ambiental water from river, and you can see this bold and red power to heat solution. This is now very, very important aspect. Some additional cities in the region, different aspects and technologies. So why we started with solar thermal, but also with seasonal storage and power to heat? Because negative electricity prices are distorting the market, especially in Southern Eastern Europe. Governments and business was mostly focused on wind and solar, but not enough focused on storage. So this actually, and for instance, in Slovenia, they expect that negative electricity prices will, in 2025, will be more than 1,200 hours per year. This is huge. This is problem. And you can see one example, 1 year old. So the negative electricity prices are already there. Sometimes they go even to minus 500 euro per megawatt hour. And it's megawatt hours, gigawatt hours of electricity are sold. So the renewable energy producer need to pay somebody to take their electricity and need to pay high, extremely high prices for that one. But luckily, in March 2023, EU issued these recommendations for energy storage. And for the first time, you can see in title, diversify energy storage. So everybody was speaking about diversifying energy sources, wind and solar and biomass, but energy storage was not in focus. So what is important for us, as you can see here, in this recommendation, a coupling of district heating systems and electricity systems is one of the priorities. And this is finally that EU put this as a priority. And this is very important for the sector, because by supporting balancing of wind and solar, we also decarbonize district heating. And you will see an example, and this is one very concrete example. This is huge project. We are now finishing the financing part. It will be 105 million project in Novi Sad. As you can see, it's 800,000 cubic meters of seasonal energy storage, 38,000 square meters of solar, 17 megawatt of heat pump, and 60 megawatt e-boiler. It is also very important that this project is in close proximity of existing CHP that doesn't have energy storage in this moment. You can see some savings, some finances, and the project will be supported by WBF. But let's go slightly more about tech. So this is how it will work. This is existing CHP. These big two storages, solar thermal collectors, and the facility. As you can see, this is existing system in the city with 3 natural gas boiler plants and CHP. So after the project, these 3 plants will only be backup and very short peak. So practically natural gas for plain heat production will be excluded from Novi Sad thanks to this project. And just to see, so of course, there is a big difference between summer and winter regime. This is summer regime and charging the storage. You can see here, storage will be charged by e-boiler. And it is very good for district heating system because system will get remuneration just for providing this e-boiler will be put into operation with the electricity company and the TSO company of Serbia, and they will pay for just for having this boiler available. And for this project, it will be almost 1.5 million euro per year just to make this boiler available so they can use it whatever they need to balance excessive electricity. Also heat. During that process, whenever this is used, it's only 5 euro per megawatt hour. So also this storage during summer will be charged with the solar thermal, which is standard Danish, something that in Denmark was developed for 30 years. And thank you, colleagues from Denmark, for working over 30 years on seasonal energy storages. Now we have them. Now they are very efficient, but also we will use heat pump to chase cheap electricity. You know, during summer, duck curve, whenever electricity is cheap, COP of this heat pump to charge the storage will be almost 3. So whenever electricity is lower than, for instance, 40 euro, with a COP of 3, then you get extremely cheap heat to put it in storage. And you can see here, depending on the month, e-boiler will probably not be used in July and August because then there is a demand for electricity for cooling, but so there is the demand for that one. Also, so during winter, very importantly, we will still have all these energies from heat pump, from e-boiler, but also this existing CHP will utilize this storage as a daily storage. So amount of heat provided to the city will actually exclude plain hot water only boiler on natural gas. They will not be used anymore. So of course we are working on replicating this potential. And what is good for the area? What do we need to make this project bankable? So land needs to be relatively cheap. In this case, it's water supply protected area, so you cannot construct anything or use it for agriculture. You need district heating pipeline because it's expensive. It's already there because CHP is already supplying city with heat. Then you need high power and voltage electricity supply for e-boiler and heat pump, which is, again, you have in this location because you have CHP in location. Also, this CHP has water intake, existing water intake for cooling this steam CHP, steam cycle CHP. And of course, we are working on upgrading this to an additional level with including hydrogen, ammonia, or e-methanol production, because as you already know, when you produce this, you would get at least 30 to 50% of heat. So in order not to waste this heat, of course, we should use, and when excessive electricity is usually during summer, so not to waste heat, we will use storage for it. Just not to take too much of time, just to give you an example, we are working on, it's already advanced in preparation of tenders for works. This is Pristina. Similarly, huge. So Novi Sad will be the largest seasonal heat storage in Europe, I think probably in the world. In this moment, but also this one is also big. So this project is in parallel developed with EU and KfW Bank and the German government. As you can see, there are some very similarly, but in this case, heat pump is not electricity driven heat pump. This is absorption driven heat pump with a existing heat source. And just to briefly mention, in order to support mid and small size cities, we have this multi-city project because in 10 cities, from the first slide, many of them are on the first slide, different technologies utilizing waste heat from data centers and others. This multi-city concept is very important because we need to support not only big cities with big projects, we also need to support mid and small size cities. So multi-cities projects are more complex, but as you can see from the first slide, how we do it. We go to every city, we create customized solution because every city is different and usually totally different technologies are applied in every city. So this is also one good example of 10 cities with each waste heat, solar thermal, geothermal, industrial, and similarly what you already saw. And just to finish, in order not to waste this precious renewable heat we produce, we need to do more on energy efficiency in multifamily residential buildings. And this is the sector that is with the least results all over Europe and especially in Southern Europe. So we didn't refurbish multifamily residential buildings, and we have the model that is tested and it works. And in 14 cities in Serbia, for instance, we will refurbish 1.6 million square meters of systems of buildings connected to district heating systems. And this is important because in some of the countries we still don't have fully deployed consumption-based billing. So this concept is dedicated to transferring this refurbished building, but also consumption-based billing based on a flat level, not only on a building level, but also thermostatic valves and heat cost allocators. And final slide is about what is new, especially for Western Balkans. EU provided significant funds for growth plan, EU growth plan for Western Balkans, but these funds are also connected to some conditionalities. And I'm very happy to say that many of them will positively influence on district heating. As you can see, consumption-based billing is promoted on a flat level, individual level, introducing of CO2 emission trading in Western Balkans, air quality, focus on district heating. So very good news for sector in Western Balkans. So thank you very much again for providing me with an opportunity to present this today.
Thank you very much, Bojan, especially for the very, let's say, very to the point and practical examples. So I would immediately give the floor to our second speakers. Before, maybe just if you have any questions, please post it in the chat or in the question and answer box, and we will try, of course, to tackle the question, even though the time is already running quite fast. Okay, so I give the floor to Panagiotis Grammelis for a presentation about biomass and the sustainable pathways for heating.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I don't know, Olgu, will you share the presentation?
Yes, so, if you want, I can.
Yes, if you can. In the middle, my name is Panagiotis Grammelis. I'm a research director in CERT. CERT is one of the biggest research centers in Greece. And I'm presenting today on behalf of the Biomass panel, which I lead at this time. It's also a big pleasure presenting the biomass activities. And the purpose of my presentation today is to show and to have some examples from the biomass heating sector, but also to emphasize the importance of biomass heating for the renewable heating and cooling sector. Is it okay, Olgu? Have you shared? Or,
it is uploading, but it's a bit slow. Maybe I can try to share it from my window, then it might be faster.
Okay, if you want, I can share. Okay.
I can do it. Just a second. I have to find the order. Yes, you can start, Panos.
Okay, so I go to the next slide. We have the biomass and sustainability, and this is the important word for biomass, sustainable pathways for heating. And in a nutshell, the contents here is the bioenergy role in the renewable heating and cooling sector, the biomass heating technologies, some examples of bioenergy projects, and the bioenergy trends in Southeast Europe. Next slide. So you can see here what is most important for the biomass heating sector is the supply. We need biomass sources, and biomass sources have to be low life cycle emission. No, the previous one, Olgu. Okay. So the important issue for biomass is to secure biomass availability. We have biomass from dedicated land use, but then we have also biomass from waste and residues and biomass from aquatic sources. Which is the most important issue is the competing uses of land. So when you want to have biomass, it is better to have the residues or to have biomass from activities that are not competing with the food and feed production sector primarily. And then you end up with sources like forest residues, agricultural residues, and municipal and industrial waste, as well as aquatic sources like the algae. Then we have the use case of these bioresources. We have here three main use cases. The first one is the biomaterials, and the second one is bioenergy. And then we have the carbon dioxide removal, which is a new one happening in the recent years. For the biomaterials, you can see that we have different biofeedstocks, and we focus a lot on chemical industry. For the bioenergy, we have heating, of course, but then there is power and the liquid transportation fuels. When discussing about carbon dioxide removal, then we have the BECCS, which is the bioenergy combined with carbon capture and storage in order to secure negative emissions. Next slide. Here you can see which is the EU28 gross final energy consumption of bioenergy per market segment. And the prevailing consumption is from bioheat, which is almost 3/4 out of all the bioenergy used in the EU28. And the dominant sector is the residential sector. Then we have the biofuels and bioelectricity. Bioelectricity is 14%, while biofuel is 13%. And so we have almost equal shares, which is for bioelectricity is power only and CHP, most of them CHP, happening mostly in the Northern Europe and especially the Scandinavian region. And then we have the biofuels, which is the biodiesel, biogasoline, but also biogas, biogas applications. Next slide. Here is another more complicated figure coming from Bioenergy Europe, and it's about the importance of the different sectors for the different countries. I have put a red frame in the South European countries. And what we can say rapidly is that in Southeast Europe, like Bulgaria, Greece, Romania, the residential sector is the largest consumer of bioheat, primarily through traditional biomass like firewood. Warmer climates in Mediterranean countries like Greece, Spain, and Portugal limit the adoption of district heating systems, which is the opposite to what we have seen in the previous presentation about Serbia. And this results in a minimal bioheat share in these district heating networks. On top of that, we have the industrial sector share, which is in Spain and Portugal is relatively high, while in countries such as Bulgaria and Romania, we have a gradual integrating bioheat in the industrial processes, mainly driven by EU regulations and renewable energy incentives. Also, there is limited use in service sector, while in Southeast Europe faces challenges such as reliance on traditional biomass and a slower adoption of advanced bioheat technologies compared to other regions. Next slide. So, for the biomass heating technologies, we have some pros and cons, and we have some challenges that need to be faced. The advantages is the sustainability. This is a sustainable renewable energy source, securing carbon neutrality and a cost-efficient solution. I mean, it's a proven technology, so we have applications that have no or minimal risk, and they lead to energy dependence, and at the same time, they can be integrated with existing systems. The challenges, the main challenge for bioenergy, and both for the heating sector, but also for the other use cases, is the fuel supply and availability. In Europe, we are using a lot of the forest residues, but we have reached a maximum utilization in the forest residues and in the available sources. And so the tendency is to use worse fuels, meaning fuels difficult to handle, difficult to collect and utilize, such as agricultural and waste-derived residues. Then another issue is the storage and handling. We have different issues there that have been faced, and there is some development and technology and maintenance, regulatory and policy barriers. This is also an important figure since the regulatory framework is not uniform in all European countries, and this is a challenge. And of course, public perception and awareness in some cases, for example, also we had in Greece such an example that they are afraid of the emissions derived from biomass applications. So it's good to have proven good practices, and so that you convince people that this is an efficient technology. So strategies to overcome these challenges is the policy and the regulation, technology and innovation, something that Europe invests a lot, is about the advances in technology and advanced technologies. Collaboration across sectors. This is a good example. We have the cooperatives there, and we have the energy communities. And last but not least is the public awareness and education. Next slide. These are the general framework I would like to set for the bioenergy, and especially for the biomass heating sector. I will show very rapidly some good examples that we have in Greece, but also in other countries. Here you can see a plant, a gasification plant from agricultural residues. It's a 0.5 megawatt plant in Thessaly. That the main products are biofuels, biochar, and syngas, and it operates quite well in the last years, but it's good to say that we have it is based on agricultural residues, and this promotes circular economy. Next slide. We have another example. This is Biopar. This is a bigger boiler. It's a 5 megawatt electric boiler, which produces electricity based on ORC. Unfortunately, we don't have their heating application, but and another issue, another characteristic of this plant is that we have imported fuel. It's mostly olive residues that are imported from outside Greece, and they use it as a primary fuel. Next slide, please. Here is a good example of an energy community. It's ESEC. It's a community, an energy cooperative in Thessaly, Greece, in central Greece. It operates a pellet plant, and they provide different quality pellets and the capacity is 1,200 tons per year. But this is a good example how an energy community can act in the bioheat sector. Next slide. Then we have the TEPA. This is an application for district heating. It's a place in northern Greece where they installed two boilers of 15 megawatt each, and they substituted the coal. It was the district heating system there uses waste heat from existing coal power plants, which are now not exist. They do not operate anymore, and so they built up two boilers there, only heating. And here we have the problem mainly with the supply chain. So you have to secure biomass as a fuel within the boilers. Next slide. And some other examples from Italy, for example, we have here another district heating system that is smaller compared to the previous. It's a 4.5 megawatt almost, and they use it for district heating system. Then we have, next slide, another example for Spain. This is a plant that uses olive residues from the olive sector and byproducts, again gasification this case, and they have multiple products like electricity, but also thermal energy and biochar. And then in the next slide we have the last example, which is one plant operating in Italy. Another application which is serving 52 municipalities, and this operates in an area with a strong commitment to environmental sustainability and waste management. They have quite advanced facilities for composting, anaerobic digestion, and energy production. And the most important is that they produce also biomethane, which is the tendency now for the biogas sector. And this is the emerging area in the bioenergy, for bioenergy in Europe. So the last, I think, next one is the, okay, there is another example. There are 5 projects running now for biomethane in Europe. There is a lot of discussion about the biomethane sector in Europe, which means we replace the biogas plants for electricity to biogas plants producing biomethane and inject it to the natural gas grid, substituting gas or using this as a fuel for vehicles. You can see here an example we have in Lagada in northern Greece. It's a 1 megawatt plant, and there is a pilot project through Biomass, an EC funded project, in which there is a catalytic conversion of biogas to biomethane using also hydrogen. And with these examples, I would like to summarize the main key points for bioenergy in South Europe in the next slide, which are that increasing shift from coal to biomass-based energy is happening mainly driven by sustainability goals. Although bioheat share in district heating is low, we have seen the example for Serbia, but for the South European countries, district heating is quite low. The investments using locally sourced biomass are rising. There is also growth in anaerobic digestion and biogas production for electricity and heat and biomethane. We have circular economy initiatives leveraging agricultural and forestry residues, which I think is quite important. We have collaboration between industries and municipalities. We have seen the different cooperatives, but also the energy communities that can strengthen the biomass applications under sustainability terms. Thank you very much for your attention. That was my last slide. And okay, questions I think we can answer later on, if any.
Thanks a lot, Panagiotis. And I move immediately to our next speaker. So we heard about solar thermal. We heard about, of course, also seasonal energy storage and biomass. So I think it's high time to talk about geothermal. So I leave the floor to Javier Urchueguia to talk about how to unlock, let's say, Earth heat.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm Professor Javier Urchueguia from Universidad Politécnica de Valencia. I was 15 years in the board of RHC, so I know the European situation well, but my perspective today will be more focused on our Spanish market to understand also what are the difficulties and processes in the more southern European area, which is, I think, the aim today. So I'm going to share my screen if possible. Hope you can see it. Do you see my screen?
Now we see, but not in the presentation mode.
Okay, I'll try to go to my presentation mode. It's okay?
Now it's working.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, just to follow on the words of my previous presenters, there are two key difficulties in the Spanish market, and I think this is also common for Italy and other southern European markets, which are heavily decentralized. That means that district heating systems are very scarce. They have a very low penetration. So it is a special difficulty here, how to decarbonize, how to make this energy transition in the heating and cooling markets in so heavily decentralized markets. So geothermal is one opportunity. I will speak mainly about geothermal in the area of heat pumps, because geo districts, like they are known in the rest of Europe, are there are only 2 or 3 in Spain. So this is also some residual market. So in the start, one very important question for the southern European application was to investigate the cooling, because here we need massive cooling, not only heating. In a heat pump, you need to also guarantee that the heat pump is working also in cooling conditions. So here in my university, in my group, we did research about 30 years ago about how a heat pump works with geothermal application, with shallow geothermal application, also in cooling conditions. And that was a good result. Here you can see a COP efficiency of such a heat pump in cooling. And something quite surprising was that to see that such a heat pump can work excellently in cooling conditions as well. So here, if you compare with our air source heat pump, we got from 2.7 to 4.36, the so-called COP, or efficiency of the heat pump. So I think this was a very good news to see that also for cooling, heat pumps and geothermal could be a good solution. So from that on, we started to have projects here. I just put some figures here in my slides, just to see that from 2005 on, there was a lot of projects in buildings, in decentralized buildings in Spain. These are just some examples. And one very important message here is that hybrid solutions are key for Spain. So you don't see ever only a heat pump or shallow heat pump system. You see a solar heat pump with solar, with heat pump, or biomass with heat pump, or you see also air source and geothermal heat pumps working together, because profitability and efficiency of the system has to go hand in hand with also the capex question, how much it costs to put such system on operation. And sometimes or often this balance is not only use one technology, but several technologies in combination. Here you can see even some official buildings that were quite large systems back in 2005. Here in Spain, the regulation was a key point here, and the RES directive for 2009 was a before and after milestone here, in the sense that heat pumps started to be recognized as a renewable heat source across institutions in Spain, and also it got for the first time into the plans of governmental institutions and associations to start looking at heat pumps. We also see barriers here, and but in any case, research in Spain was very active, and we have many research groups active in shallow geothermal or even deep geothermal, and so we are, I think, in Spain active in research, and also following the technological trends in Europe in the area of shallow geothermal energy. There is also a strong presence of stakeholders from Spain, for instance, in different European institutions. Here you can see the largest system for the time being in Spain. This was commissioned about 2015, 16, as I remember. This is an hospital in Spain, San Pau, which is a very good example of cross-institutional collaboration between different stakeholders to put on feet a very advanced system based on a hybrid geothermal, shallow geothermal air source solution with 57 boreholes, for instance, giving about 4 megawatts of heating and cooling for an hospital building. So this is not a question about technology. I want to go more deep on the questions about how the market is really developing and what are the real barriers which are acting on the market for such type of decentralized substitution or transition in the heating and cooling market. So here we see, for instance, from the European trends that, for instance, the plants commissioned in a year in Europe for example, geothermal plants are, let's say, in the order of 17, 18 plants in Europe, but Spain has still let's say, very low share in this type of market. For geo plants, we see only 3 plants operating now in the geothermal. There are more than 300 in biomass, for instance. So biomass is much stronger, even in district heating, while geo is much weaker here. And you can see also here, even compared to other countries with a much lower heating and cooling market. In the area of heat pumps, for instance, there is more or less the same trend. You can see Spain with a very low share in heat pumps. Up to date, we have up to date, I would say, less than 12,000 systems and 300 megawatts or 400 megawatts, which compared to the heating and cooling market, it's a very low share. So what are the real barriers? So I would like to go more in deep on that, because I think these are the key points for us and how we can really promote this type of questions. I think the first speaker did make a very good comments here. The question of storage and of sector coupling will be key really here. We have a extremely gasified heating sector in Spain, so we have to compete with a very cheap type of energy source, and we want to substitute this energy source by electricity or biomass, which poses a lot of barriers. If you see here the broad figures in Spain, we see that, for instance, electricity geothermal plants are not there in Spain, although there is potential in the south of Spain, in the Canarian Islands. There's a huge potential there. We have only 3 plants with direct use, as we saw in the slides. And here, this is a little bit outdated, but we have less than 12,000 geothermal buildings in Spain from many millions of homes or buildings that are really with other types of heat pumps or air source-based heat pumps. If we look at the planning, we see no plans from the government to really deploy this type of system, which is a first barrier. We have no commitment of institutions towards this type of new solutions. You see also the barrier, and I finish with this my presentation, we can conclude that the market in our country, in Spain, is well below its theoretical potential, even according to nowadays European standards. And it's not a problem of research. As we have seen, there are many active research groups in Spain, and also there's experience from technology point of view. So they are stakeholders, there is experience in the market, they are installers which know about the technology. This is not the main barrier. The main barriers is also not the lack of regulatory environments, because for shallow geothermal heat pumps, we have not specific regulatory frameworks operating in Spain. So there is really not a barrier in that sense. The main aspects that really we have to deal with and we have to really consider in the market are, first of all, the awareness and public recognition. If you talk to the general public, 99 from 100% would probably not know about what a geothermal heat pump really is. So this is a huge barrier. So public awareness and recognition must be something that we have to work on in the next years if we really want to go and to accomplish the targets we have set, so ambitious, that were presented at the beginning. The second and very critical barrier we have in our country is the lack of engagement of the critical stakeholder groups. And which are the stakeholder groups in our sector? These are the HVAC sector, the architects, and the promoters. So here, really, we have to work more on the sector coupling and general energy system conditions, which really make this type of system more profitable and which really empower public administrations or to work more stronger on the decarbonization of this heating and cooling sector. So I think this is, for me, the most serious barrier we have to work on in Spain to really improve the situation. And second, the third and fourth are obviously the cost. We are still dealing with a cost question here. We have to improve the cost condition, which is a little bit something that is iterated with the other questions, because if we have a stronger market, we will have a lower cost, obviously. And finally, we have to improve our types of support and incentive scheme, which should be much more tailored and much more specific for the technology that we are trying to promote. So for me, this was my last slide. I hope to be not too disappointing here. We have to deal with a very decentralized market in which the individual building owners and architects have a strong say in what is the system that we have to. And here in these type of conditions, we have not this advantage of having large district system which could be decarbonized, let's say, on a move, like, for instance, we have seen in the first presentation. And here we have to deal with other type of questions that are very, very serious. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope for questions in the last session.
Thank you very much, Javier, also for pointing out the relevance and the centrality of the hybrid solutions. Of course, we are presenting technologies and solution mainly separately, but really this flexibility and resilience, let's say, of hybrid system is really one of the key points for a high penetration of renewables in the heating and cooling sector. Thanks a lot. So we are going towards the last technological presentation. So I give the floor to Nuno Roque for talking about heat pumps and how they could drive energy efficiency in heating.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, my name is Nuno Roque, as Riccardo said. I'm Secretary General of APIRAC. APIRAC is an association of companies who represents the refrigeration and air conditioning and heat pumps market in Portugal. We represent 550 companies of all the business chain. And I understand I am among scientists in this event, but I'm not a scientist. So my outlook to the issue will be more about the policy. What is the context that we are facing, and how companies in this business are trying to accomplish very challenging targets that we have ahead. So, Olgu, I would like you to put on the my fourth slide, please. Okay. So, in Europe, when we talk about heating and cooling, we are talking about buildings, and the European regulation sees the targets a lot about new buildings, but the reality is the existing buildings. In Europe, in Portugal too, we have 1% to 2% of new buildings are big renovations. So we see these numbers, these figures, and we see that the final heating and cooling represents 20% of the energy in Europe. Because if we have 40% in buildings, the 50% of that 40% is for heating and cooling. 20% of energy in Europe is for this purpose, and we have the challenge of the climate too. So there are a lot of things happening in Europe about regulation, about changing all the legislation concerning buildings, like the EPBD, the energy performance of buildings. We have the Renewables Directive, and the others who were renovated between the last year and this year. So why do you think, or why we think that heat pumps are very crucial to this? They are very crucial because they use electricity, not gas. And since we have the problems about the issues relating the oil and the gas concerning the war in Ukraine and the problems with Israel in that sector of the world. So we have to make the change to renewables. In Portugal, we have been doing that for a decade, but unfortunately, this is yet too expensive. But maybe we can get to a better days in the next years, because the investment is getting results. So why do heat pumps fit into this equation? Because they use electricity, and they can transform 1 kilowatt of electricity in 4 or 5 of thermal energy. And we are talking about the typical heat pumps, because more or less 80% of people, they live in buildings, in cities, and it's not easy to transform buildings of apartments to a new era of new technologies. Heat pumps, they are very important because they are easy to implement at homes. And when we talk about homes, we talk about poverty of energy in buildings, especially in Portugal. In Portugal, we have an excellent climate, maybe the best climate in Europe, but we have one of the worst rates of dies with excess of heat and excess of cold. So heat pumps at homes, they are crucial to this question. all the countries in Europe, they have been finding solutions to try to implement new measures of getting comfort at homes. Unfortunately, this costs a lot of money. So we are looking, maybe we could now look to the situation we have in Portugal concerning some measures to facilitate the acquisition of heat pumps. I must say that in Portugal we don't have geothermal and we don't have district heating. About district heating, only one case in the city of Lisbon, in a recent neighbor. So there is no history about district heating in Portugal. And about geothermal, only one case or another, nothing special. So what is the Portuguese government doing to facilitate the implementation of heat pumps? Maybe we could go to the slide number 8, please. Okay. In Portugal, we have been trying to use some instruments like incentive programs, but there is a great interruption on these measures. There's a lack of financing from the European Union, and the budget ornament, the budget situation in Portugal is not famous. So there's a lot of interruptions about the chances to use public financial incentives. We have been using some facilities on VAT, and this year all the goods and services concerning with the transactions with heat pumps, they have a rate of 6%. It's the lowest rate that we have in VAT. Next slide, please. All the types of heat pumps are including, especially those we need at home. In Portugal, 90% of the transactions is heat pumps with air source. They are the most part of the equipment sold in Portugal. And this facility in VAT is for all kinds of heat pumps, domestic, commercial services, and industrial. Next slide, please. But this measure will only run to the middle of 2025. This is a transitory measure. So after July of 2025, we won't have this facility, and the rate on VAT will be 23% again. Next slide, please. Well, about electricity, for large families and for low consumers, we have a low rate of VAT, but for the general of consumers, the VAT is 23%. Next slide, please. On gas, it's the same the same way we have for lower consumer 6% and 23% for the general tariffs and consumers for higher levels of consuming is the general tax 23%. Next slide, please. In the next year, we'll have the drop of the tax on the VAT for electricity. So we'll have 6%, but only for lower consume and for large families. So for the general activities, services, commerce and industry, the rate will continue to be 23%. Next slide, please. Okay, why in Portugal things are not so good with in the last years 23 and 24 with the increasing that we have been seeing on heat pumps, because this is equipment very expensive. It's not easy to the families to buy heat pumps and to bring this solution instead of the equipment with gas, for instance. In the other hand, the inflation rate in Portugal, as all around in Europe, was very high. Now we have 4% in the end of the last year and beginning of this year. The inflation was 4.3%. And in the 2022 was 5%. So the expensive cost of heat pumps and inflation with problems all along with the business chain gave new difficulties to the selling of these equipment. Next slide, please. So families, but all the small and medium enterprises have been facing a lot of difficulties to purchase this kind of products. In other hand, the end of teleworking and the coming back to companies, the issue of comfort at home didn't help the selling of these equipment as we saw in 21 and 22 after the pandemic period. Next slide, please. Well, we have talked about the difficulties in the public financial incentive programs, the limited scope of the recovery and the resilience program too. We haven't been seeing a lot of structural funds in the last years. So the contest is not very famous to improve the purchase of these expensive equipments in Portugal. It's maybe a reflex of other countries too. Next slide, please. So we know that there is no future in fossil fuels. We have to change to the renewables. In Portugal, we are doing that on production and on consumption. We have to decentralize the production of energy and connect the production to the consumption of the energy in buildings and at homes. But for that, we need the technology is excellent, everybody knows, but we need government action. We have to create, if you want to accomplish the facing the exigent in challenge targets that we have ahead, we have to go along with the political goals in energy and environment, and we need government action. We have to create favorable economic conditions, and it means that we have to use the legislation and regulation to adopt these competencies of heat pumps. We have to put the heat pumps as a real solution to go ahead, and we have to provide accessible financial instruments, not only for families. We have to do that for companies. And we have to reduce seriously the costs of electricity for all the sectors, domestic, commercial, and industrial applications. So this is the point of view that we see in Portugal. I didn't use the figures and numbers about the selling of equipment, because the reality of Portugal and dimension of the country is not the same as we have or as we see in other countries. Spain, for instance, is 4 times bigger than Portugal. It's not comparable. We have a lot of similarities concerning the weather and the climate, but we live alongside the sea. In Spain, it's not the same thing. So this is a little bit of the outlook that we can give about the context in Portugal concerning the heat pumps, and I'll look forward for any questions that you can put ahead. Thank you so much, Olgu.
Thank you, Nuno. So you all more or less, I think, mentioned the topic of district heating and cooling, which is, as I was saying at the beginning, really a cross-cutting point, because it's not a technology, but it's more like a solution, let's say. So I will give the floor for the last presentation to Anes Kazagic for talking about this district heating and cooling and how it can foster, let's say, the introducing of renewables.
Thank you, Riccardo. I would like to ask Olgu first to manage the presentation, if you don't mind, Olgu, please. Many thanks. So time is running. I will try to save some of the remaining time and pass through this my presentation. That is a sort of a summary of all that our previous speakers already spoke about. So I will shortly talk about district heating and cooling system and building resilient systems, and I will shortly speak about core features of the resilient district heating and cooling system, strategies for building them, benefits of those systems, challenges and solutions, and also future outlook. And I will just briefly present one of the case study from Bosnia and Herzegovina of the building of a resilient district heating system in the case of our Tuzla district heating system, which is an existing district heating system, and I will show you how we plan and how we actually realize transition of this traditional district heating system to the modern one, resilient district heating and cooling system. The next, Olgu. Yeah, when we talk about core features, we can speak and highlight actually feature of the centralized and efficient systems that actually reduce energy losses compared to the individual building level systems. Then the next feature is for sure flexibility in energy sources, so we can integrate many energy sources, particularly renewables, and that's one of the main advantage of the resilient district heating and cooling system. Demand optimization, yes, we actually need to respond to the demand of the consumer side, to the demand for the heat energy, and to provide the security of the heat supply to the consumers. Scalability is also one of the main features of those systems, because we can build from the small scale to the large, really big scale systems that Bojan already spoke on the example of Novi Sad. So we can make by this feature actually suitable for sustainable city planning. And on the top of the features is, of course, sustainability of the future resilient district heating and cooling system, because they can actually harmonize all environmental, economic, and social impacts and benefits as a function of the highest sustainability index that is actually the point of the decarbonization and energy transition. The next. So yeah, when we talk about strategies, how to build a resilient district and cooling system, we can take into account different renewable energy and integration of those renewable energy models into the systems, then adapting smart technologies for the optimal managing of the system on the temperature based control of the system, also implementing some AI-driven algorithms to optimize the efficiency, particularly in the distribution part of the heating and cooling system. Then ability to incorporate thermal storage is also crucial to provide the optimal dispatching of the thermal energy, or the electricity and the thermal energy if we talk about cogeneration district and cooling systems. Also, this decentralization and redundancy is also very important for the safety and security of the supply of the heat. And the climate resilience is also important strategy. We actually evidenced this crucial importance of this resilience during the last extreme weather conditions that affected the systems across the Europe. The next, Olgu. Yeah, to conclude about the benefits of the resilient district heating and cooling systems, we can summarize them into the reduced carbon emissions, enhanced energy security, cost effectiveness, and support for urban development. So I'm now going to talk about, yeah, the next, Olgu. I'm now going to talk about this case study from our country, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Actually, my company, Power Utility of Bosnia and Herzegovina, operate this one of the largest district heating system in the country, but also in the Southeast Europe. It is Tuzla district heating system. It is in the heart of the coal, one of the largest coal region in this part of Europe, in Tuzla coal region, and that's why actually transition of this district heating system is challenging compared to some other examples, because we in parallel need to actually provide socially just transition of both power and heat sector in this case. So the next slide, Olgu. So we start, of course, from the planning. So we planned for this district heating system some introducing and changing the heat technology mix. For this first phase, we already started to implement classic heat pumps in a single house as a single house solution. Also, we started to use the biomass for co-firing in our cogeneration units that supply this district heating system. Also, we started to planting short rotation copies and the dedicated energy crops to support the actually feedstock for the biomass supply, for the biomass co-firing of existing cogeneration units. And also we plan daily heat storage on the site of power plant that supply the heat to the district heating system. For the next phase, we already developed some solar thermal solutions, both centralized and distributed solar thermal, and also we want to add to this bioenergy solutions also waste to energy, and start to prepare the project of deep geothermal, which we already preliminary investigating in this phase. So as a final touch for the final phase, we would like to implement this geothermal and add to all those solutions that are going to be implemented in the first two phases. The next one, Olgu. So on this slide, we have some examples of already implemented projects and some projects that are in the high stage of the development and preparation for the implementation. So as I already said, we implemented the biomass co-firing in our two cogeneration units in Tuzla power station. We at the moment use between 5 and 10% of the sustainable biomass mixing with the basic lignite that are used in these cogeneration units, with tendency to increase this percentage because we in the previous period tested first on the lab scale, then also on the large scale up to 20% of the biomass co-firing on those units. Then we also developed in cooperation with EBRD bank one of the dedicated biomass cogeneration power unit on the site of existing power plant Tuzla. It will be 25 megawatts of electric combined with 65 of megawatts thermal energy for supply of the existing district heating system in part of the Tuzla city. Also, we have some ongoing projects of the dedicated energy crops and short rotation copy started from the miscanthus, then willow, and then we now focused on robinia or acacia. I will tell you maybe some more later on. So as I already said, 3 projects of solar thermal are in different stages of development. One of them is centralized. They support the feeding line in the one of the cogeneration unit, while those remaining 2 solar thermal projects are in the heart of the city of Tuzla, and they are actually centralized concept of integration of solar thermal modules. And we also developed together with the EBRD the project of centralized heat pump that actually use the industrial waste salt water from the existing chemical industry in the city. The next one. So it is actually summary list of the ongoing projects. We at the moment use 70,000 of sustainable tons of sustainable biomass in our cogeneration units, also for supply of the heat for the cities. then we are in the final stage and we will finish this project study of dedicated project of biomass cogeneration unit in Tuzla until end of the year. Also, EBRD supported our plantation of the short rotation copies on former coal mine landscape. Then we already have some subsidies for individual consumers for heat pumps from the city of Tuzla. Then this daily heat storage is planned in the power station of Tuzla, while 2 sites for seasonal peat storage are under consideration, again in cooperation with EBRD Bank. And the next, Olgu. So to conclude, there are of course some challenges, but also solutions. We have evidently high initial costs that can be then compensated by a long-term energy savings. Public awareness is a crucial. Some of the speakers already spoken about that. Educated stakeholders about the benefits of district heating and cooling system fosters acceptance and participation. And of course, we need to overcome some regulatory barriers in cooperation with policymakers to create supportive framework actually. So as a future outlook, we really need those resilient district heating and cooling systems for sustainable cities and modern urban infrastructure in Europe. So that would be all from my side. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Anes. And you already mentioned it exactly at the end of your speech, the point of the importance, let's say, of the awareness and at local level of all the stakeholders. And of course, this is also connected to the acceptance, which perfectly lead us to our last presentation by Luca Cioccolanti about the role of social science and humanities in the topic of renewable heating and cooling. Please, Luca.
Thank you, Riccardo, for the introduction, and good morning all. I kindly ask again Olgu to support me with the presentation. So today I have the duty, but also the pleasure to stress once more, to remark once more the importance of social acceptance on renewable heating and cooling uptake. And before entering into detail, let me briefly introduce the agenda of this short presentation. I will at the beginning talk about the importance of social sciences and humanity aspect in renewable heating and cooling. Afterwards, I will briefly present our horizontal working group on social science and humanities, and afterwards I will discuss about what are the needs related to social aspect, and finally I will provide a couple of successful projects of some in which some members of our horizontal working group are involved. Next slide, please. To stress again the importance of social science and humanities that was already discussed by many of the speakers before me, I would like to start from few numbers. If we are looking on how we are proceeding at European level in terms of renewable energy capacity, in particular of intermittent renewable energy like solar and wind, and also with respect to the renewable heating in the share of renewable energy, in heating and cooling, we are proceeding well. But if we are considering what have been the target fixed by the REPowerEU plan, actually we are quite below such targets. So it means that despite we are doing a lot of efforts in this sense, we need to do much more. And for the share of renewable energy in heating and cooling, it is evident that the annual increase that at present is about 1% should be more than double. So there is actually a lot of efforts to be done in this sense. Next slide, please. And if we are considering the prices of energy, the electricity prices and the natural gas prices in Europe, we can see that actually in the past years we have experienced such huge peak because of several reasons, which I'm not entering into detail. And despite nowadays we are reducing a bit such spikes, actually we are not coming back to the previous prices. So it means that the cost of energy is rather high, and this actually results in a larger number of Europeans unable to keep their homes adequately warm over the years. So we passed from about 7% in 2021 to more than 10% in 2023. So it is evident that we are in the progress of an energy transition, but it is also evident that this energy transition should be just and fair as much as possible to avoid the exacerbating of already differences among European people. So it is really important that we focus on social aspect also in implementing this energy transition. Next slide, please. And because of the importance of social aspect, this was among the reasons why the European Technology Information Platform on Renewable Heating and Cooling has launched in 2023 a new horizontal working group focusing on social aspect of renewable heating and cooling, with the aim of bringing together people having very different backgrounds, so from technical background in engineering to more social background, so with a very multidisciplinary approach to provide input on social aspect and discuss about the cross-cutting issues of social aspect in renewable heating and cooling. I take the opportunity of this presentation to invite interested people who are listening today that are interested in these topics to join our horizontal working group in order to make our activities even more effective. Over the past few months, we have worked on a first recommendation paper, which identified several priorities to further progress on renewable heating and cooling uptake. And among them, we identified three that are the reskilling of the workforce, the broadening of the social acceptance, and the reduction of legal barrier. Today, I would like to focus a bit more on the broadening of the social acceptance, which is the title of this brief speech. So I kindly ask Olgu to move to the next slide. When we talk about social acceptance, as also highlighted by previous speaker, it is sometimes evident the contradiction between the general support for renewable energy, but at the time of implementing specific renewable heating and cooling project, or rather innovative project, actually we face difficulties in the realization and difficulties in social acceptance. So it means that it is really important to conduct analysis on user behaviors and also to understand carefully what are user consumption patterns, also in consideration of the fact that in the energy transition, most of them will not be only consumers, but also producers, so will act as prosumers. providing this in these recommendation papers, we identified some potential strategies to broaden the social acceptance, and in particular, we believe that the identification of existing barrier through not only qualitative analysis, but also by introducing more quantitative methodologies would be very effective in this sense. Also, the enhancement on the community engagement is really important to foster social acceptance. And finally, also the increase of social sciences aspects in research project on renewable heating and cooling are really important. I believe that social sciences indexes could be introduced as we are doing when we are analyzing new technologies from the environmental and economic point of view. So this could be also an important aspect to take into account to broaden the social acceptance. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you, Olgu. I would like to briefly present a couple of successful projects in the field. One of that is called Energy Poverty Zero, that is coordinated by a French institution, which aims at better identifying barriers through quantitative methodologies, and in particular, the project aims at reducing the energy retrofit cost of social houses, but also of private houses by industrialized solution of the retrofit by providing already assembled block of the envelope. So in order then to reduce the cost of the retrofit. And this is performed essentially by 3 pillars. The first one is through the introduction of a decision support tool for the evaluation of the most suitable neighborhoods to be retrofitted. The second one is through deeply engagement of the citizen by performing a collaborative approach over the different phases of the project. So by involving more the users, and eventually the third one is thanks to the implementation of and the development of contractual schemes that make possible the collective procurement of the industrialized solution. Next slide, please. This is just to show how the supportive tool for the evaluation of the neighborhoods could work. So it aims at evaluating the area by providing a global vulnerability index of the neighborhoods by taking into account several aspects that ranges from the educational level of the people in the area, the unemployment rate, and also the age of the people living there, in order to understand the vulnerability of the people living in the area, and in order to support in the retrofit also those part of the population. Next slide, please. The second and last one example of project instead referred to an example of community engagement. This was performed within the SuperHero EU-funded project that was coordinated by an Italian consultancy company, which aims at developing innovative financial instrument by increasing the community engagement in performing energy efficiency measure or the uptake of renewable energy in supermarket or retail businesses. This project was implemented through some successful case studies, and some of them were performed in Italy at Natura C organic supermarket, and in particular in some shops in different locations in Italy. And actually it involved the community by the crowdlending approach. So by identifying different interest rate of investors, having higher interest rate for those that were closer to the market. So from the local communities through moving to the outside, so from country citizens or other interested investors. If you can go to the next slide, Olgu. Here you can see an overview of these three projects that aim at purchasing a PV system that have been installed on the roof of these retail of these supermarkets, and here very few numbers about what were the average investment per person and the mean interest rate. This was the possibility of a higher engagement of the community of people that were interested in implementing sustainable project and renewable energy technology, but that may not have the chance to do in their household. So a way to contribute on this energy transition, and furthermore also a way to strengthen the link between the already customers with the supermarket. So it was a good synergy in order to further promote the uptake of renewable energy. That's all from my side, and of course I will be pleased to answer to any question or curiosity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca. And by the way, Dominic Ruth just posted on the chat the link to register for becoming members of the Renewable Heating and Cooling Platform, and also to join the Social Science and Humanities Working Group. So if you're interested in that, you can do it immediately, let's say. Okay, so we are quite late with the program, but I would like anyway to ask some questions to the speakers. I did prepare some questions, but I would prefer to start from the ones we see in the chat, of course. So the first one, I think I will go to Panagiotis. There is a question by Dominic. Do you think that the biomass potential in Southern Europe will be affected, and in particular will decrease in the future due to climate change? So how do you see this link between the availability of biomass and and also, of course, the needs to burn it, let's say, and the climate change issue?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Well, I don't think there is a straightforward answer to that, because normally we are optimistic and we want to increase the bioenergy potential, we want to increase the renewables, but the reality and the market is what defines the situation. I mean, the determinant factor is the clients, is the customer, and what is cost effective. For biomass, I will speak a little bit about Greece, but also South Europe, because you see, based on the presentations we've seen today, there is a little bit difference between the South European countries, meaning Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Greece, and to the Balkan region, because the West Balkans seem to be more favored for district heating, which is not the case for the South European countries, where district heating is not so is not developing so well due to the hot climate conditions. But the primary objective for biomass is to secure sources. So in South European countries, and which is common also in other European countries, forest and wood-related biomass has reached its maximum. We do not expect to have more sources from wood or from forests. And as a matter of fact, I can say about Greece, we have this fact about the wildfires, and there is some mobilization in order to protect the forests through protection measures. And this is quite time consuming and not so effective. And at the end of the day, it does not secure big quantities of biomass that can be used. This is a big area to discuss, but the main issue is if you want to increase the biomass potential, you have to find out sources. It is connected to the climate change, as well pointed, due to the wildfires and the reduction of forest biomass. But the future, especially for Greece, and I believe for the other South European countries, should come from agricultural residues, from waste-derived materials, so from other sources, from sources other than forest materials. We have also the issue for the applications. We have seen these uses, like we have the small-scale boilers, which have some ups and downs. It's not so effective due to the environmental concerns. But for the medium and large-scale boilers, which is more efficient from an environmental point of view, it is difficult to secure the supply. I can speak about the two plants in Greece I showed in my presentation. For example, Biopar, it's 5 megawatt, which means they need about 30,000 tons, and this is mostly imported, so it cannot be secured internally. And the second point is second unit in northern Greece. It's about district heating system, which is 30 megawatt boilers. And in this case, again, we have a problem with the costs because it's only heating, and this means that it's not so cost effective with the biomass supply. Where I see a potential is about biomethane. There is a big progress in Italy. We have also in Greece an emerging situation, and we believe that biomethane will become important because this is also an environmental project. It uses residual sources, so at the same time you have an environmental aspect within your project. And the second point is it is not anymore a project for grid stability, but for storage, to replace natural gas. So from this perspective, I believe biomethane will become more aggressive. And the third point, we have in Greece, but I believe also in Spain and in other countries, the aviation fuels and the shipping sector. In this case, we have the liquid biofuels, which is not for heating, but as far as you can secure that there are sources that can be used, then I believe that biofuels, liquid biofuels, could play a role there. So all in all, there is no straightforward, unfortunately, Dominic, there is no straightforward answer. It will be nice to have the optimistic view that we always have, that it will be increased. I think that it will not be decreased, but it will be stabilized, and the tendency is towards agriculture and biomass and biomethane.
Okay, thanks a lot, Panagiotis. And talking about climate change, but seen from another perspective, I would like to go to Luca and ask him a question. I don't know if it's if it makes sense, let's say, but I have this question myself. So, of course, we always hear a lot about climate anxiety, especially of the younger generations. And so, do you see that this climate change and the urge, let's say, that especially the younger generation feel, can they make also a trend in improving the acceptance of new solutions because they feel that it's the only way to go, let's say, let's put it like that? I don't know if it makes sense or not from your point of view.
Yes, actually, from my point of view, actually, we are talking much about emergency and crisis. I mean, climate change, of course, is a burning issue, and we need to tackle it. But I believe that in order to broaden social acceptance, rather than talking in media or wherever about that, we should talk much about solution, about positive project, and about what could be actually done or what is already in place as a best practice. Because in my opinion, this is what is lacking actually, that is not full awareness among all the people of all the societies. And I strongly believe that we need to change the cultural paradigm. And I hope that this will be pushed from national and governmental level through, for example, the involvement of municipalities that in this sense could play a very important role in order to make people of their municipality are aware of what is running and also about what is doing in other or in very neighborhood cities. So, of course, I mean, it's important the feeling, the behaviors, and also what are the needs of young generation. But I really believe that we need to change a bit. So from focusing only about what is the problem to focus about what could be the solution and what could be a more sustainable action that we could put in place and that actually are yet in place.
Thank you, Luca. And I must say that it's already the second positive answer. So very good, but from both Panagiotis and you. So I will move now. I make the link because, Luca, you also asked a question in the chat to Hannes, I think. So you were interested in particular in the Tuzla project, because there we have a big an ambitious transformation of the mix of sources. So the question to you, Hannes, is if there are already projections for the costs of both thermal energy and electricity. So are users going to pay the same? Because I think this is a key point also in acceptance. I think you're still muted.
Many thanks for the question. We first need to know what the reference scenario of the prices of the electricity and heat we have actually here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, particularly in our Tuzla region. So prices are pretty low and affordable for the consumers. And of course, it is a, let's say, kind of environmentally friendly partnership between our power utility and people living there in that region. And we actually supply by the heat almost 200,000 people there. So yeah, they have at the moment affordable prices of the heat, but we recently actually started to increase because it is not feasible to keep so low heat prices there, and people are aware of that. So they are ready for a slight decreasing of the heat price. We also talk about electricity price because it follows the increase also of the heat price. But we need to do it carefully and in a gradual way. So in a gradual manner, increase the price while integrating all those renewables that obviously increase the capex and or pose the some high capex costs that in the let's say in the lifetime of the 20 years obviously require the increase of the heat price. So we already actually for those projects that are in the stage of the development and preparation already actually envisage the increasing of the price of the heat, but also the increasing of the price of the electricity.
Okay, thanks a lot. Actually, there are a couple of more questions for you, Hannes, but if you don't mind, I would also like to hear from other speakers. So if you can have a look at this in the chat, and maybe you could directly answer there by writing, let's say. Thanks Thanks a lot. So I would move now to Bojan to ask a bit about policy. This is actually a question from my side. So we have two very important articles in the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive. One is Article 26 about efficient district heating and cooling, and so the way how to calculate it and the targets that should be then implemented by the different countries, and Article 25.6, which is very important because it, let's say, obliges the larger cities above 45,000 inhabitants, if I'm not wrong, to develop also heating and cooling plants. So do you see that these two pushes from this directive about efficient district heating and cooling, and about also the awareness, let's say, for also the municipalities, the planning of the need for planning also a heating and cooling level could really make a difference? From our experience in Ambiente Italia, we do a lot of local energy planning, and usually municipalities are not even aware of the problem of heating and cooling. They're just focusing on electricity when they are doing their plans. We are always trying to push this topic in, but it's very hard. How do you see that?
Thank you for the question. So we could split answer in two. One is and this was mentioned several times by several of our colleagues. We have countries with the tradition of district heating, and we have others that don't have this tradition. So for both, the regulatory framework and this push from EU is very important. In my presentation, you also could see this recommendation for energy storage, and they came in last moment. It would be better to have them, for instance, 2 years before, but negative electricity prices are really distorted in the market. So this energy storage recommendation and put district heating in rightful place. We will not decarbonize Europe or any sector without heating and cooling and industry sector, and without coupling with energy efficiency. So both directives you mentioned are very important. We have in countries with a district heating tradition, it is easier because you already have networks. Networks are expensive, and so you, from my examples, you can see that it's much easier to decarbonize existing network. But also, I was in study visit to with Serbian District Heating Association and Swiss District Heating Association, and also Swiss Association for Environmental Technology. And I was so happy to see that ambition of Switzerland in district heating is 10 times higher than just few years ago. And this was obviously triggered by this regulatory framework. In addition to, so, you know, if you went to Sweden like 5-6 years ago, nobody was speaking about district heating. Now their plans are to invest billions in networks. We also see that Germany wants to connect 100,000 households per year. So now is the time for district heating. Maybe people working in this sector 10 years ago could say that we are neglected, totally rightfully. EU regulatory people for regulatory, they were not focused on district heating. Now is vice versa. So bottom line is that those two that you mentioned, of course, are very important, but that there is a heating and cooling strategy of EU from I think if I remember well, from 2019 that also changed the aspect. So bottom line, district heating now sector and heating and cooling sector in whole are in focus. We don't have any excuses to say that we don't have support anymore. Support is there, push is there, and what we are doing now is actually spreading the word about this, and we should all focus on, as you mentioned, some decision makers are not aware, but once they start to get fined or to pay the fines because they didn't do their job, so that's a carrot and stick. We have this stick. Yes. They will pay fine, but there is a carrot. These examples that we are doing. So finishing, absolutely, it is absolutely in focus. A well-deserved place for district heating, and now we should not complain. We should work. That's my conclusion.
And that's a very good conclusion, of course, not complaining, but working. Thanks a lot. So just a couple of quick questions more, and then we can move to the final presentation. The first one is for Javier, because you talk about hybrid system, and I think it was very important. Do you see any opportunities on how to promote this hybrid system? For example, in Italy, we were talking about kind of an incentive system to promote the hybrid systems. The more you get closer to 100% renewables, the higher the incentive you get, or something like that. Do you have any, let's say, practical idea on how to foster the use of these hybrid systems?
Thank you for the question. Hybrid system is it's a very broad concept, really. So you can almost hybridize anything. If we, for instance, talk about heat pumps, there are hybrid heat pumps already in the market, so-called dual systems, in which the source of the heat pump is either geothermal or air source. So you have really a hybrid system is very broad. The way to decarbonize the electricity system is to combine cheap and green electricity with efficiency, with heat pump efficiency, biomass efficiency, in hybrid concepts, which will change from place to place or from market to market. So the way to promote this is to really, I agree with what was said here, through the regulation and through building regulation and through really showing the stick and the carrot to really bring the stakeholders of the building systems in South Europe, in Spain, in Italy, I think in Portugal, it's critical to really bring the stakeholders and the municipal decision makers into this path, to make them more aware about the existence and the possibilities of such system, but also to put the regulation to such level that really that people, the stakeholders, are obliged to go this way. This is not the technology which is there, and we have infinite possibilities there.
Okay, thanks a lot, and that's very clear also. So my last question is to Nuno. Of course, we're already talking about, let's say, climate change. How do you see this from the point of view of heat pump markets, let's say? So there are, of course, some challenges for heating in an ever warmer climate. So how do you see that regarding the market, especially in the South Europe, of course? And how, on the other hand, do you see it, of course, the perspective for cooling, which would be always more and more pressing, but of course there are some barriers like the capacity and the stability of the electric grid. Do you have any thoughts on that, how this will influence the market, especially for heat pumps?
The electric grid is a huge problem, because we don't have infrastructure prepared to give an answer to the needs of all the buildings and the houses. I believe this is the biggest challenge, is how to. That's why I talked about the need to bring the production near the consumption. We have to have ways to give a solution to the buildings. The buildings have to be sufficient. They must have the solution to solve their problems, because you want it in Portugal. It won't be easy to make an infrastructure to give an answer to all the needs for heat pumps. This is a big question, but we can't just set objectives and not create the conditions to achieve them. When we talk about Portugal, we talk about a great deal of energy poverty in buildings, and it's not possible to thermally transform the building envelope. So if you can transform the building envelope, you have to put solutions in the buildings to give an answer. We in Portugal, we have a lot of heat in the summer, and the winters in the countryside, they are very, very cold. So we in Portugal face the climatization of houses and buildings together, and the houses are variations. The new regulation for buildings is from 2006, and you only see energy certification with the A class in 14% of the buildings. It is related with the idea that you only have 1% to 2% of new buildings and renovated or big renovations of buildings. So yes, the electric grid is a problem. So we have to find the solutions in the buildings and in the houses. The decentralizing of production and putting the people and companies with the conditions to be sufficient. This is the big challenge.
Yeah, that's very interesting also. Thanks a lot, Nuno, also for this question. So thank you again to all the speakers. Unfortunately, we don't have so much time for many other questions. I would give the floor now for the last presentation to Olgu Birgi from VIP and to Laura Junasová from Heat and Power for talking about how to fund and support renewable heating and cooling in Southern Europe. Please.
Thank you so much, Riccardo, for the nice introduction. I'm now sharing the slides. Laura, you can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Junasová, and I'm a Senior Project Officer at Heat and Power. And as Riccardo mentioned, as part of today's webinar, we also wanted to touch on the topic of funding and support for renewable heating and cooling projects. And with that in mind, I would like to briefly introduce you to an initiative we are working on as part of the RHC-ETIP consortium, and it's called the RHC Accelerator. So what exactly is the accelerator and why are we developing it? So Olgu, please, we can go to the next slide. And the reason why we started working on such platform is that while RHC technologies are advancing quite fast, one of the key challenges for advanced innovative projects is to become financially viable and to reach the market phase faster. And therefore, the RHC Accelerator is a platform that aims to help project developers tackle this challenge by bridging the gap between research projects and market-ready solutions, helping accelerate the transition from the concept to commercial success. And for this reason, the platform aims to serve as a hub of knowledge and connection. And it aims to facilitate matchmaking between mature RHC projects and potential investors or heating and cooling experts that can help these projects accelerate to the market. And it also aims to provide access to some relevant resources such as funding opportunities, policy insights, and success stories from other projects. We can go to the next slide. And yes, so I would like to invite you to visit the RHC-ETIP website, perhaps after this webinar, if you have time. And you can see that in the main menu, there is a section for the RHC Accelerator. And when you click on it, it will take you to the introduction of the accelerator. And on the left side, you can see 4 main sections in the menu. The first one is support for project developers, which features a database of heating and cooling experts and investment companies. The second one is repository of funding schemes. Then we have policy support, and finally, the success stories. I would like to mention that the platform is not yet fully developed. There are still some sections that are under development, but we hope to finalize them soon. So let's dive a bit deeper into what we are actually building. We can go to the next slide. And the European Heat Pump Association, as a consortium partner of the RHC-ETIP platform, has already developed a database of heating and cooling projects. You can also see it in the main menu. And building on this, the RHC Accelerator within the RHC Accelerator, we are now creating a new database of investors and experts in heating and cooling technologies. And these investment companies that will be featured in the database specialize in funding renewable heating and cooling technologies, providing the financial resources needed to overcome barriers such as development cost, commercialization challenges, and market expansion. And that's not all. As I mentioned, in this database, we also want to have some professionals that are willing to support the acceleration of heating and cooling technologies. And these experts will have knowledge and skills that can help these innovative technologies achieve market adoption. They can be, for example, marketing specialists, regulatory and compliance experts, technical experts, and so on. And the database is not yet at place, but right now what we have in the RHC Accelerator is the subscription button. So you can already subscribe to this database if you wish to. And you can do it by filling out the form. You will be asked to choose if you want to register as an investment company or as an expert. We can go to the next slide. And if you choose to register as an expert, we will, of course, ask you to elaborate on your expertise and how you can help these projects describe your expertise in more details. And what you can see on the right side of this slide is the preview, how we want the database to look like. So it's not yet developed, but this is our idea of how it can be once it's done. And on the next slide, I want to mention that RHC Accelerator is not just about connecting projects with experts and investors, but it also aims to provide some essential resources such as funding information and policy insights. And for the funding schemes, we have already created a catalog of EU funding opportunities, complete with some tools for finding programs and calls for proposals. And you can see that if you select a specific funding scheme, you will be able to see a brief description of the scheme along with the eligibility criteria, funding criteria, and of course a button that you can click on, and you will be redirected to the page where you can find more information. Next slide. And we also wanted to provide the users with information on national funding schemes. And I would say that we were quite lucky because in September of this year, Giulia Conforto and Markus Hummel from Austrian research organization eThink published a very nice data set. It's called EU27 country mapping of financing schemes to decarbonize buildings, heating and cooling. And this data set is very comprehensive. It maps out all the public and private financing instruments that are currently available to support the decarbonization of buildings, heating and cooling. And the data in this Excel sheet is basically divided into two sections. So on the first one, you have public schemes, then you have private schemes on the second one, and of course, you can filter these schemes by country. So this is why we decided to contact Giulia as the main author of this data set, and she agreed that we can include the data set in our RHC Accelerator. So if you go to the page, you can already find a link to the data set. And what is more, as I mentioned, it's a very comprehensive data set. So we invited Giulia to present it during one of the webinars that we recently held at Your Hidden Power. And during this webinar, she really explained how to properly use the dataset, how to find the relevant information. And we now uploaded the video recording from her presentation also to this section of the RHC Accelerator, so you can watch it, and it serves as a video guide on how to use the dataset. Next slide, please. And the third section is called policy support. In this section, you can find some EU legislative insights as well as national contact points. The national contact points, it's a section that is still under development, as well as the success stories. Please, next slide. Which is the fourth and the last section within the RHC Accelerator. And here we want to basically showcase some examples of projects that already received the needed financing or the expertise from other experts, and they managed to enter the market. So that's everything from my side. And yes, we hope that you will find the RHC Accelerator useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Now I can continue maybe with my really short slides. Since we extended the time a lot, I will just take a couple of minutes. Actually, my presentation is about this data set Laura was mentioning about. I will showcase you some of the funding opportunities for Southern European Union countries from this data set Laura mentioned about, and I will be showing you some public schemes available in some Southern European Union countries. Unfortunately, this data set is only covering the European Union countries and members. That's why not all the Southern European countries are shown here, but you can see a couple of them. And as Laura mentioned, that this is a quite new data set, but you should also consider that the last update of the data set was on 30th of July 2024. Therefore, actually, some of the public schemes are already expired, especially for the Spain case. You will see it. These are some of the ongoing public schemes in Bulgaria. If you want, you can take a screenshot, or I will also send this presentation all of to you, so you can check more in peace. Here I've given the place the scheme name, scheme area, and scheme type. If you click on the scheme name, you would be also directly directed to the website in the national language. Here is the case from the Greece. And here I've also mentioned if there is an expiration date of the scheme. Here is written, for example, this Electra scheme is available until 2026. And there is another scheme here called iSave 2024. It was announced that the scheme would come into the force, but also it's better to be checking time to time. Some ongoing public schemes in Italy. There are also these PNRR ones, which have the deadline until 2026. And you are already, I think, familiar with some of the schemes here, like Superbonus was really famous. And it's some ongoing public schemes from Portugal. These are mostly national schemes. Available in the whole country, but in the example of Spain, there are also some regional public schemes like this incentive program for the sustainable energy development of Andalusia. This is a regional scheme. Also, there are some schemes which are only focusing on some cities in Spain. As you can see, like most of the schemes were only available until 2024. At the moment, you can see the ongoing schemes, these three of them here. Yes, if you want to dive more into this data set, as Laura mentioned, please click on our website and check the Renewable Heating and Cooling Accelerator. I would like to thank you all, also the Riccardo and the speakers, and I'm giving the floor back to Riccardo. Thank you.
Thank you, Olgu. Just to close, thank you also for the patience. We were a bit long, but I think the contents were very interesting, so it was worth. Yeah, thanks a lot to all the speakers for contributing, and also to the audience. And you will receive soon a follow-up email from the organizers with again the link to the recording, to the presentation, and everything. So I hope it was very interesting for your daily work. Let's say thanks again, you all, and have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Very well done.